What is going on, guys? I'm one of the best competitive Fortnite players in the EU, and today I'm going to be exposing the settings that all pro players are using to go pro at the game. Alright, so we're just going to jump right in and just go through each of my settings. Okay, so for my display, I play on this resolution. I use the lower graphics rendering mode. That way you get those nice builds and some extra performance. I like to use this colorblind mode, trying to taupe. I just think it makes the game look better. So, if you have trouble seeing stuff in the game, it kind of makes it a little more dull compared to the normal game. I run a 0% 3D resolution to make sure my game is running as high as possible. I run far view distance, high textures, and low meshes, so I can have the game looking nice for my recordings, but also so that I can have the most optimal game performance possible. I always keep my show FPS on so I know how my game is running, and I disabled my report performance stats. Although it says performance in the name, this actually makes your game a whole lot slower, so definitely turn this off. Alright, we're going to completely skip over my audio and sound. If you're really interested, this is it right here. Pause the video, but there's really nothing in here. All of this stuff is completely up to preference. Alright, now we're into my game settings. Most of this is going to be preference as well, and based on your region. Make sure your region is always the closest one to you, or put it on auto. These are just all my movement and combat things. Very basic. All of this is preference. Now this is a big one right here. You're going to want to make sure that your turbo building is on. If this is off, it's going to make building awful for you. You're not going to be able to build at all. And if you want to have really fast edits, just like myself, make sure your auto confirm edits are on edit, so that you can just click 2 buttons instead of 3, and that's how you edit. As far as extra game options go, I don't have anything really changed here. My FOV and FOV max are basically the same thing as what they came as. Now this is an important section actually. Replays and energy saving. Turn every single one of these off. If you want the best in-game performance, turn every single one of these off. It's going to make your game lag a whole lot less. It's going to decrease your input delay and give you much lower ping. Game UI. Now basically all of this stuff is going to be preference yet again. The only thing I really do recommend changing is your HUD scale. I decrease my HUD scale to around 50% just so I can see the game a lot better. It just decreases the size of stuff like your mini map, your inventory, stuff like that. If you have trouble seeing those things, do not decrease this, but if you want to be able to see the game a little bit more and what's going on, and a little bit less of the huge mini map, then I would definitely decrease your HUD scale to around 50%. But again, that's all preference. Obviously, leave all these HUD options on. I turn off my quest progress and my control prompts just because I don't really need them. And this one's important as well. I keep my runtime performance stats on just so I can see how my game is doing under the stress. Alright, now this is the really big stuff, which you've all been waiting for. My mouse and keyboard settings. I've been using these for years. I've been practicing on these for years. These are what all of the pros use. They all use something very similar. And these are the exact settings that I recommend to all people playing keyboard and mouse, whether you're advanced, whether you're beginner. I started from a beginner on these settings, and now I'm one of the best players in the game, and I still use these settings. So let's jump right in. I'm going to put my DPI for my mouse on the screen right now. It's 950. So keep that in mind when we're looking at all my sensitivity. Alright, so my X-axis sensitivity and my Y-axis are very similar, only a 0.4 difference, but I keep them both very low. Again, I play on a 950 sensitivity for my DPI, so I just like to keep these really low. In general, a lower sensitivity is typically better. If your sensitivity is too high, you're not going to be able to aim or do anything. It just makes the game a whole lot harder. My targeting sensitivity, you can see here, I've also decreased a little bit, the same as my scope sensitivity, and I kept my build and editing sensitivity just at 100%. Haven't really changed those that much. Alright, now this is really important. I know they have completely messed with movement so much this season, but if you want your game to feel like OG Fortnite movement, these are critical for you. Put your forward diagonal angle on 60, your strafe angle on 71, and your backward diagonal angle on 135. Make sure you have this on so you can actually change them. This will make your game feel and run so much smoother. It'll feel like OG Fortnite movement, and in general, it just makes you play a whole lot better. Alright, now we're going to be getting into my keybinds, what I have bound for certain things, like my edits, like my builds, so let's jump right in. Alright, so my movement and jumping is all very basic, just WASD and a spacebar. I use sprint with my control button just so I can use it with my off finger for my left hand. Auto run, I don't think I've ever really used this feature, so it doesn't really matter. And crouch, I recommend putting this as shift. That way you can use your same finger for crouch and for sprinting, just right next to each other. Keep those two things really close to each other. And I don't think I've ever used force walk. So, as far as combat, again, very basic. I have left click, right click as my fire and target. Reload is R. I recommend using E for your use button just because it's really close to W, A, S, and D, and you're going to be using that button a whole lot. This is important. I just bound my harvesting tool to Q. I don't ever really use this, and I'll show you why in a minute. Weapon slots, I keep all of these the same. I have my scroll wheel down as my weapon slot 2, which is usually my shotgun, just so I can pull out my shotgun really quickly if I need to. Alright, now this is where stuff gets interesting and where you should really start paying attention. Building and editing settings. So, for my wall, I use my mouse button 4, and then you'll see I use mouse button 5 for my stairs. Just want to keep those as close together as possible, so I'm using my mouse hand thumb to press both of those buttons, and I can do those really quickly and interchangeably. Alright, so for floor and roof, I use X and C. This is actually really optimal because you can use the same finger to press X and C at the exact same time, meaning you're not having to press two different buttons. They're right next to each other. You can kind of lay your finger across X and C, try it right now, and you can press down on both of them at the same time. It really helps with double editing, triple editing, quad editing, anything where you're placing a floor and a cone at the same time. This is super helpful and a really underrated trick. Trap, I use Z. I don't remember the last time I put down a trap. I don't even know if there are traps this season. So, again, I don't think this really matters. Just kind of keep it close to W, A, S, and D. Place building is normal. Change building material is normal. And now we get into some really interesting stuff. For my building edit, these are the best building edit settings you could possibly have, whether you're beginner, whether you're advanced. Keep your building edit on F. That way it's really close to W, S, and D, and you can do it really frequently. And make sure that this second slot is scroll wheel down. If you're not using scroll wheel to reset, you're doing something wrong. It is the easiest way to reset, and it's super OP for keyboard and mouse players. Alright, now this is really important here. Select building edit. You're going to want to keep left click on here so you can, edit with your mouse and whatnot. But also, this is super important if you want super fast edits. Put a button like B, just something that's close to your building edit, as your select building edit. That way you can press F and B at the same time with two separate fingers. Just spam click those as fast as possible, and that's how you can edit super fast in Fortnite and make it look like you have macros. Try this trick. It's going to make your gameplay so much better. You're going to be able to impress all of your friends and post crazy TikToks of you being one of the fastest editors in the game. This is such a well-kept secret. People like myself, Rift, Notluck, Cultures, all use this building edit. Not all of them use B, but I think it's the best. So definitely check this out. It's probably the most hidden secret of the Fortnite editors, of all of them that I know. So definitely put this in your list of stuff to change in your edit binds. And again, reset edit building. You're just going to want to put that as scroll wheel down so that you can reset your buildings just by scrolling downwards. Communication, this stuff really doesn't matter. I just kind of keep it close to W, S, and D if possible. Emotes, again, just whatever you want. Alright, now we're in miscellaneous. This is what I was talking about earlier with your harvesting tool. Put your harvesting tool button above as something completely random that you're not really going to use. And then this toggle harvesting tool, this is your actual harvesting tool button. So I would recommend putting it at G just so it's always accessible. This is what you're going to press. Now, the difference is if you press G here, it pulls up your harvesting tool. And if you press G again, it puts it away. The issue with the harvesting tool button way above that we talked about earlier is that you press it and it brings out your harvesting tool, and then you press it again and nothing happens. So it really isn't optimal. I love this. I didn't know this was a setting until about a year into playing. This is a real game changer. I really like this setting. Super underrated. Not enough people talk about it. The rest of this stuff, I'll scroll through it really quickly, but all of this movement stuff is kind of just preference based. There's really nothing that I would change here. I mean, Epic's done a pretty good job with making sure all of these are usable. So I would just kind of keep all of these the same if possible. Again, I do not play on controller. I will be making a controller video soon. I have a bunch of really good friends that are professional Fortnite players as well. who play on controller, and I'm going to be leaking their settings in a later video, so stay tuned for that as well. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, consider dropping a sub. I've been making a bunch of videos just like this one I'm putting on screen right now that are mainly based on improving at Fortnite, getting better, really honing in on those skills so that you can be the best competitive version of yourself. So definitely go check out that video and the rest of the videos on my channel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the support recently.